Okay, yeah, we're doing more of this. uh, okay. Okay, 1.7. President Trump had his day in court. Wait, is this? Oh, it's a little too high. Whoops. Fix that. That's a little better. Okay. Shit, hold on. It's freaking out. Oh, oops. Proven the election was stolen, but no judge, including the Supreme Court of the United States, has had the courage to allow it to be heard. That was how President Trump described efforts to overturn the election in court one day before the Electoral College met on December 14, 2020. That was false. Judges across the nation did evaluate President Trump's claims that the election was stolen. As longtime Republican election attorney Benjamin Ginsburg testified before the Select Committee, the president's camp did have their day in court. It's just that in no instance did a court find that the charges of fraud were real. In total, the Trump campaign and allies of President Trump filed 62 separate lawsuits between November 4th, 2020 and January 6, 2021, calling into question or seeking to overturn the election results. Out of 62 cases, only one case resulted in a victory for the President Trump or his allies, which affected relatively few votes, did not vindicate any underlying claims of fraud, and would not have changed the outcome in Pennsylvania. 30 of the cases were dismissed by a judge after a hearing on the merits. In every state in which claims were brought, one or more judges specifically explained as part of their dismissal orders that they had evaluated the plaintiff's allegations or supposed proof of widespread election fraud or other irregularities and found the claims to be entirely unconvincing. 62 cases, yeah. Oh, they made a little graphic. Wow. Cancelo was made by people in the government because it looks so goofy. 9 states and DC are the sites of case filings between November 4th, 2020 and January 6th, 2021. 61 losses, 1 win. Judges appointed by Republican presidents oversaw the cases, 22. 10 Trump-appointed judges, 3. All 3 Trump-appointed Supreme Court justices rejected the fraud claims. Yeah. Pretty bad looking. Let's put it in between. Oops. November. Arizona, for example, the plaintiffs in Bowyer v. Ducey alleged that the election was excuse me. Wait. Sorry. Brain's getting fucked. As Arizona, for example, the plaintiffs in Bowyer v. Ducey alleged that the election was tainted by the introduction of hundreds of thousands of illegal, ineligible, duplicate, or purely fictitious ballots. A federal judge dismissed their suit, finding it void of plausible allegations and sorely wanting of relevant or reliable evidence. Likewise, in Ward v. Jackson, an Arizona state court judge dismissed a lawsuit by the state GOP chair following a 2-day trial, finding no evidence of misconduct, fraud, or illegal votes. This ruling was unanimously upheld by the state Supreme Court, where all 7 justices were appointed by GOP governors. In Georgia, a state court dismissed Bolin v. Raffensperger, which alleged that tens of thousands of illegal ballots were cast out of state or were cast by out-of-state voters or with invalid signature matches. The judge found that the complaint's factual allegations rest on speculation rather than duly pled facts and do not support a conclusion that sufficient illegal votes were cast to change or place in doubt the results of the election. The judge who issued the decision had been appointed by a Republican governor, as had 7 of the 8 justices of the state Supreme Court who upheld their ruling. Likewise, a federal judge denied relief to the plaintiff in Wood v. Raffensperger, which alleged that new procedures for checking absentee ballot signatures spoiled the result by making it harder to reject illegal ballots, finding no basis in fact or law to grant him the relief he seeks. The judge wrote that this argument is belied by the record, because absentee ballots were actually rejected for signature issues at the same rate as in 2018. In Michigan, a federal judge found in King v. Whitmer that the plaintiff's claims of massive election fraud were based on nothing but speculation and conjecture, that votes for President Trump were destroyed, discarded, or switched to votes for Vice President Biden. Similarly, a state court judge rejected plaintiff's claims in 2 cases brought against Detroit and the surrounding county that accused them of systematic fraud in how the absentee ballots were counted. The judge found that one group of plaintiffs offered no evidence to support their assertions, and that the other group's interpretation of events is incorrect and decidedly contradicted by highly respected election experts. In Nevada, a state court judge rejected a litany of claims of systematic election fraud in Law v. Whitmer, ruling that the plaintiffs did not prove under any standard of proof that illegal votes were cast and counted, or legal votes were not counted at all due to voter fraud or for any other improper or illegal reasons. The ruling was unanimously upheld by the Nevada Supreme Court. In Pennsylvania, a federal judge dismissed Donald Trump for President v. Bookver, finding that the Trump campaign had presented nothing but strained legal arguments without merit and speculative accusations, unpled and operative complaint, and unsupported by evidence. The dismissal was upheld by the United States Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit, which held, calling an election unfair does not make it so. Charges require specific allegations and then proof. We have neither here. That opinion was authored by another Trump appointee. Lastly, in Wisconsin, another judge dismissed a lawsuit accusing the Wisconsin Elections Commissions of constitutional violations that likely tainted more than 50,000 ballots. The judge ruled this court has allowed plaintiff to take the chance to make his case, and he has lost on the merits, failing to show that the outcome was affected by commission rules about drop boxes, ballot addresses, or individuals who claimed indefinitely confined status to vote from home. The ruling was upheld by a 3-judge panel of the United States Court of Appeals for the 7th Circuit, all of whom were Republican appointees, including one appointed by President Trump himself. And all the judges who heard these post-election cases included 22 federal judges appointed by the Republican presidents. President Trump and his lawyers were well aware that courts were consistently rejecting his claims. During a December 18th meeting in the Oval Office with President Trump, Sidney Powell and others, White House senior advisor Eric Hirschman pointed out that President Trump's lawyers had their opportunity to prove their case in court and failed. Powell fired back, "Judges are corrupt." Hirschman responded, every single case that you've done in the county you guys lost, every one of them is corrupt, even the ones we appointed? President Trump was faced with another choice after having his day in court. He could accept that there was no real evidence of voter fraud, or he could continue to amplify conspiracy theories and lies. He chose the latter. Wait, so who was saying this? Senior advisor Eric Hirschman. I think this was somebody brought up earlier on. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to think because I guess I could list each case and say like the findings in each. Where let's see. I'm trying to think of how I put this. Um, federal. Yeah, I feel like the ones down here were more, some of the more harder hitting ones. Yeah, I think. Trying to think. How we should show it. Hmm. Or you know what? It might just be easier. Number page equals, what's this, 238? Which might be more sense to do 237. Hold on. Hirschman, Herschmann. Hirschman. What the fuck did my fucking... There it is. Let's say, bro. 239. And number page equals 239. I'm trying to, President Trump repeatedly promoted conspiracy theories. Instead of accepting his defeat, President Trump attempted to justify his big lie with a series of increasingly preposterous claims. The president was not simply led astray by those around him, the opposite was true. He actively promoted conspiracy theories and false election fraud claims even after being informed they were baseless. Millions of President Trump's supporters believe that the election was stolen from him. Many of them still do, but President Trump knew the truth and chose to lie about it. The power of the president's bully pulpit should not be underestimated, especially in the digital age. President Trump's relentless lying sowed seeds of distrust in the American election system. Researchers who studied this election denial phenomenon have noted President Trump didn't just prime his audience to be receptive to false narratives of election fraud, he inspired them to produce those narratives and then echoed those false claims back to them. Social media played a prominent role in amplifying erroneous claims of election fraud. Shortly after Election Day, the Stop the Steal campaign, discussed more fully in Chapter 6, went viral. Stop the Steal influencers echoed President Trump's premature declaration of victory, asserting that he won the election the Democrats stole from him, and it was the responsibility of American patriots to combat this supposed injustice. Let's write this down. After the election. I should put first, like Trump continues to spread lies. Wait a second. Bully pulpit? How do you spell bully pulpit? I don't fucking know. It's a weird fucking word, dude. Bully pulpit? What is it? I just read it. Whatever. Just look it up. Bully pulpit. Oh, is it two separate? This resulted in what Attorney General Barr described as an avalanche of false claims as President Trump's supporters attempted to justify his big lie. Post-election allegations of fraud or other malfeasance were completely bogus, silly, and usually based on complete misinformation, Barr explained. Nonetheless, many of President Trump's supporters wanted to believe them. The stolen election narrative has proven to be remarkably durable precisely because it's a matter of belief, not evidence or reason. Each time a claim was debunked, more claims emerged in its place. Barr later complained that this dynamic forced him and others to play whack-a-mole. The United States Department of Justice, under Barr's leadership and then acting Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen, was forced to knock down one lie after another. As discussed in Chapter 4, Barr took unprecedented steps to investigate the avalanche of lies. Claims of election fraud were referred to United States attorneys' offices and the FBI for investigation. Deputy Attorney General Richard Donahue tracked dozens of investigations. None of them were found to have merit. The top officials in President Trump's Justice Department personally told the president that the claims he was promoting were false. That did not matter to the president. As Barr told the Select Committee, President Trump never showed any indication of interest in what the actual facts were. 20. Deputy. Spelled Donahue. Donahue. Oops. Oops. Where was the... Okay, for example, on December 27th, Rosen and Donahue spent approximately 2 hours on the phone with President Trump. They debunked a litany of claims regarding the election, explaining that each had been investigated and found to be baseless. According to Donahue, President Trump had this arsenal of allegations that he wanted to rely on. Donahue thought it was necessary to explain to the president based on actual investigations, actual witness interviews, actual reviews of documents, that these allegations simply had no merit. Donahue wanted to cut through the noise and be very blunt with the president, making it clear these allegations were simply not true. During their December 27th conversation with President Trump, Rosen and Donahue rebutted false claims regarding suitcases of ballots in Georgia, Dominion's voting machines in Antrim County, a truckload of ballots in Pennsylvania, ballots being scanned multiple times, people voting more than once, dead people voting, Native Americans being paid to vote, and more votes than voters in particular jurisdictions. As the officials debunked each claim, President Trump would just roll on to another one. Donahue told President Trump that the federal law enforcement officials had conducted dozens of investigations and hundreds of interviews, and that they concluded that the major allegations were not supported by evidence, the evidence developed. Donahue and Rosen told President Trump flat out that much of the information he was getting was false and or just not supported by the evidence. President Trump responded, "You guys may not be following the internet the way I do." The Department of Justice was not alone in trying to contain the president's conspiracy mongering. President Trump's lies were often debunked in real time by state authorities, judges, experts, journalists, federal officials, and even members of his own legal team. As discussed above, the president's campaign team found that there was no significant fraud in the election, so the president pushed them aside. The courts rejected nearly every claim brought by the president's legal team. Even though the courts rejected the claims as speculative, unsupported, and meritless, President Trump, Rudy Giuliani, and others continued to assert them as truth to Trump's followers in speeches, tweets, and podcasts. The burden of refuting the false claims made by President Trump and his surrogates often fell on state and local officials. For example, in Michigan, the Secretary of State's office posted thorough and prompt responses to the claims of election fraud on fact check page on its website. In Georgia, the Secretary of State's office issued news releases and held frequent press conferences in the weeks following the election to respond to claims of fraud. County clerks in the contested states also spoke out publicly to refute allegations. Even as the president undermined the public's confidence in how votes are cast and counted, these clerks assured voters that their elections were secure and they could have confidence in the results. Outside experts also publicly denounced and dismantled the claims being raised and amplified by Donald Trump. This was done in the context of litigation, congressional hearings, and press releases. President Trump simply ignored these authoritative sources and continued to promote false claims that had been soundly discredited. Below the Select Committee presents 2 case studies demonstrating how President Trump and his surrogates lied in the face of overwhelming evidence. The first case study deals with Dominion voting systems. President Trump repeatedly claimed that Dominion software switched votes and rigged the election well after the leaders of campaign and Justice Department officials told him that these claims were baseless. The president's smear of Dominion was central to his big lie. The second case study examines video footage recorded in Fulton County on election night. President Trump and his representatives concocted a fictitious. It's concocted a fictitious. I almost said it again. Concocted a fictional narrative based on a deceptively edited version of the footage. After these 2 case studies, the Select Committee examines a variety of other claims the president repeatedly made. Once again, these claims had no basis in truth. Okay. Okay, sure. Let's go with their case studies. Dominion studies. Is this, just one? Between Election Day and January 6th, President Trump repeatedly spread conspiracy theories about Dominion voting machines. The president tweeted or retweeted false claims about Dominion more than 30 times. He also repeatedly lied about the company's software during his post-election speeches and interviews. President Trump's own campaign staff, administration officials, and state officials all told him the claims had no merit. Hand recounts confirmed the fidelity of the machines, but none of the overwhelming evidence mattered. President Trump demonstrated a conscious disregard for the facts and continued to maliciously smear Dominion. President Trump's allies began spreading false claims regarding Dominion within days of the election. On November 8th, the day after networks called the election for Joe Biden, Sidney Powell claimed on Fox News that Dominion voting machines were flipping votes in the computer system or adding votes that did not exist. On November 12th, Rudy Giuliani appeared on Fox News to claim that Dominion was connected to Venezuelan dictator Hugo Chavez, and its software was created in order to fix elections. The same day, President Trump retweeted a report claiming that Dominion had deleted 2.7 million Trump votes nationwide and switched hundreds of thousands of votes in key swing states. Claims that Trump on the Trump camp. Sidney Powell claims on Fox. Yeah. Ship connects. At that time, the Trump campaign team had looked into allegations regarding Dominion and its software and concluded that these claims were false. An internal campaign memo dated November 12th said that Dominion software did not lead to improper vote counts, and cited reports concluding that, among other things, Dominion machines did not affect the final vote count. The memo also addressed various claims of foreign influence regarding Dominion. Jason Miller told the Select Committee that by November 12th, he had told President Trump the results of the election, or that the results of the analysis of the Dominion claims by the campaign's internal research team, specifically telling him that the international allegations for Dominion were not valid. Emails and text messages show that the same analysis was shared with Mark Meadows, President Trump's chief of staff. White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany told the select committee that White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany told the select committee that she found herself waving President Trump off of the Dominion theory, encouraging him to use more fact-driven arguments, but it was to no avail. So Trump's internal, what was it? Emails and text messages. Yeah, that's what I just went through. And even though members of the Trump campaign team reported that the result of the election was not compromised by any problems with Dominion machines, the president continued to assail Dominion on Twitter in the days that followed, for example, retweeting a false claim that Dominion's machines were engineered by China, Venezuela, and Cuba, and claiming that Dominion had rigged the election. Officials in the Trump administration also worked to debunk the false rumors about vote manipulation. The United States Department of Homeland Security, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, released a joint statement of election security officials on November 12th, reassuring voters that the election was the most secure in American history. CISA emphasized there is no evidence that any voting system deleted or lost votes, changed votes, or was in any way compromised. Which I remember this from the federal election case. I think I wrote about the same thing, CISA, yeah. Yeah, and the same thing in Trump's indictment about the most secure in American history. Yeah, pretty funny. CISA cybersecurity and infrastructure agency. Officials in the Trump administration also worked to debunk the false rumors about vote manipulation. Oh no, wait, that's the one I just read. This was another decision point for the president. He could choose to endorse the findings of his administration-owned cybersecurity experts, or he could continue to promote baseless fictions about Dominion. President Trump chose the lies. The president and his supporters never did produce any evidence showing that Dominion's machines affected the results of the election, but President Trump was undeterred by the facts. Indeed, the president and his supporters seized upon a simple human error in a small Michigan county as their initial pretense for these allegations, as well as to keep Dominion conspiracy theory alive. During the early morning hours of November 4th, Cheryl Guy, a clerk in Antrim County, Michigan, reported the unofficial results of the vote count. Guy's online report... Guy, a clerk in Antrim County, Michigan, reported the unofficial results of the vote count. Guy's online report was odd. It showed that former Vice President Biden had somehow won Antrim, a county that is majority Republican, and President Trump was expected to easily win. Trump supporters quickly pointed to Biden's improbable win as evidence that Dominion had tampered with the votes. That wasn't true. Guy had made a mistake in updating the election counting software after a late addition of a local candidate to the ballot in some of the county's precincts, which caused her unofficial counts to be off when she tallied the votes by reported. When she tallied the votes reported by various precincts. Guy, a Republican, was informed of the odd results and began to investigate immediately. The result was corrected, and President Trump won Antrim just as expected. Okay. So this is in Michigan, they said? Yeah, Antrim County, Michigan. Yeah. So essentially, there was a candidate that was added really late, and they hadn't updated it properly, and that caused it to fuck up the tallying for other shit. Yes. Um, Within days, local and state officials in Michigan. Hold on. Hold on. Within days, local and state officials in Michigan began to, officials in Michigan explained to the public what had happened. On November 7th, the Michigan Secretary of State's office issued a detailed description of Guy's error and assured the public that the official results were not impacted. The Michigan Senate's Committee on Oversight, led by Republican Senator Ed McBroom, conducted its own comprehensive review of claims related to Antrim County and confirmed that the initial reporting error was entirely attributable to an honest mistake by the county clerk. The mix-up in Antrim County was quickly corrected. A human erred, not the voting machines, but President Trump used it as a pretext to continue lying about Dominion. Oh, we're getting to the State Farm Arena video. I assume that was probably going to be there. I think they talked about it a little bit. Where was I at? Yeah. So I'm right here. So I read about the thing itself and how they fixed it. So now I guess we're gonna go more into all the other stuff. But I'm gonna leave it there for now. I'm at page 244. That's it for me this time. Hold on, I'm gonna write that down. Page 244. And I'll see you guys around. I might be reading more of this next time, or I'll be doing Ninja Gaiden 4. I don't know. We'll see. I just got a bunch of new Steam games also, actually, so I don't know. I was thinking about doing an Arc Raider stream. We might see. I don't know. Get something a little more. I know. I don't know how much everybody loves the reading streams, okay? But listen, streaming, it helps me do this stuff, okay? But anyway, yeah, that's it for this time. I'll see you guys later. Be safe, don't die. Have a good one.